Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Today I wanted to just cover several different things going on in the news. Most of it you may not even be aware of. And this is all stuff that's kind of connected to the things that we talk about. It's more, some of it is more of this great reset, Agenda 2030 that's being just played out before our eyes. And others, it's just more signs of the collapse that's coming, the collapse that's happening, which is being orchestrated so that the Agenda 2030 Great Reset Plan will be able to be put into place. Because, and I get this question all the time, why are they wanting to collapse everything? Why are they wanting to collapse the dollar to bring about a digital currency? Why are they wanting to collapse our system, our supply chains, our government to bring about, a great reset? Well, folks, the big reason is that people aren't going to accept it, not in the way that they want. They want absolute, complete acceptance. And that's not going to happen as long as a somewhat stable system is in place. I mean, most people, or at least a lot, are not going to switch over to a digital currency if a physical dollar is still viable and still works. And people in countries all over, including here in the United States, are not going to give up their sovereignty to a globalist order as long as their country is still functioning. So they have to bring it down. That's what a reset is. I mean, what do you do if you reset your phone or you reset your computer? You shut it completely down, right? That's part of the it starts all over from zero. That's what a reset is. They've been telling us for 2 years now that they are resetting the world. And so the stuff that we hear about on a daily basis, it's not just a coincidence, folks. These aren't just things that just happen to fit right within their plan. These are things that are being orchestrated on all levels. Klaus Schwab, the head of the World Economic Forum that's pushing the Great Reset, he has said himself that they have operatives, they have people and supporters in every government, in every country, on all levels of government, in all corporations, in all the NGOs, everywhere. They have supporters and operatives that are pushing their agenda everywhere. So it's just almost to the point of being ridiculous to say that the stuff that's happening is just a coincidence. So let's get into it. But before we do, I haven't said this in a very long time. If you have been watching this channel for any length of time and you haven't subscribed, why don't you do so? I mean, it's painless, it's free. If you end up realizing and regretting that you don't like what you did, just unsubscribe. But hey, if you've been watching us for a while and you're not subscribed, you should do so. And those of you that think you're subscribed, you should probably check, because YouTube has a way of just somehow unsubscribing you to channels. So let's get on with this. Something in the news that I think is kind of interesting, and I am enjoying to see the stir that it's creating amongst liberals, is that once again Texas is talking about secession. In fact, so far to the point that the GOP Republican Party in Texas has adopted that into their state platform to push the issue of secession to the state level so that there can be a statewide vote. I'm not so convinced that it will happen. I'm almost afraid or worried that this issue is a little too late in Texas, that there's been so much of an influx of people from California and other places being pushed into Texas to kind of flip the vote, that it may be a little too late for this. But it is interesting to see that this issue has come up again. And honestly, I believe that this is an issue that should be talked about much more. Whether or not it happens, it may be one of the few things that could get the federal government or national government to listen to what's going on. There should be more states, I believe, talking about this kind of stuff. Anyways, remember those cows just last week that all fell over dead in Kansas? Anywhere between 3,000 and 10,000. Seems like the number kind of grew, and there was an estimated of close to 10,000. A lot of people were wondering about it. Well, I don't necessarily have the answer, but I did find something that was pretty interesting. That who knows, maybe this is one of those just weird coincidences, but it may not be. Just a couple of months ago, the FDA approved what's called CRISPR cattle. CRISPR is an acronym for genetically modified cattle that just happen to be gene edited so that they can withstand high temperatures, that they won't die in the high heat. This has been approved for human consumption, that farmers can now have genetically modified cattle that they don't have to worry about them all dying like the ones that did in Kansas. So there's a good selling point. You know, all those cattle that's been dying in Kansas because of all this crazy heat, you need to switch over to the CRISPR cattle. Now, what are the long-term repercussions from this if people started eating this? Who knows? I mean, that's the big thing with the genetically modified foods. We don't really know. It's not been around long enough. There's not been enough long-term study on it to tell us exactly what it's going to do to us. And some of the studies that have been done are a little scary in some of the things, because this is some of the potentials for danger for humans of eating too much of the genetically modified organisms could be pretty high. I mean, there's many instances where wildlife won't touch it. And if wildlife won't touch genetically modified foods, then probably humans shouldn't either. But I just find it interesting that they just approved genetically modified cows that are capable of withstanding high heats right before a bunch of cattle die. So it's talk about a good selling point, even if it's not a coincidence. In other news, is this the next, scary health crisis, or is this just something that's kind of playing out in the background? We're still not sure about that, but the whole monkeypox scare hasn't stopped. It's now in 20 states with 113 cases as of this morning. Those are confirmed cases in 20 states, so it is growing. I did see that, I believe it's over in the UK, that they have approved a vaccine for certain segments of society. I believe the gay community is now qualified to receive a vaccine for this, but who knows? I still haven't figured out if this is the next big one. If it is, it's sure taken them a long time to get it developed. It could just be one of those things that are just playing out. But the fact is we have this unusual monkeypox virus that seems to be spreading around, and it doesn't really make too much sense of why all of a sudden it's here. Is this leading and opening the door to some kind of smallpox, or is this something else? I guess time will tell on that one. And while we're on a similar subject, I just wanted to throw this one out there at you. You can just look at it and read it for yourself. And folks, if this right here alone is not a very solid case for you to pull your kids out of school and homeschool them, I don't know what else is. I mean, look at this. Just take a moment. If you need to pause this video, then do so and read this. This was posted in a school. And for those of you that haven't been keeping up on this kind of stuff, trust me, this is not the first, and this isn't even the worst things that are being done in schools nowadays. There are numerous videos out there of teachers talking about their preschoolers and their kindergartners and their elementary schools students, and how they are, encouraging them to come out and trying to explain to them the differences. And it's absolutely the most disgusting thing that you can imagine. And then, of course, taking your kids to clubs where people are dancing, and riding around is absolutely awful. But I just wanted to show you this because, again, if this isn't a case for getting your kids out of school and homeschooling them, then I don't know what is. Over across the pond in the United Kingdom, they're having a big train strike right now. There's tens of thousands of train workers that are striking, and it's causing the rail lines to just come to a screeching halt. And of course, that's going to just affect the economy even worse, and the supply chains worse, because they're going through a lot of the same things that we are here. But we're on the verge of something similar to this. As I said yesterday, in our big ports over on the California coastline, those dock workers and port workers, their contract ends the end of this month, and it's not been renegotiated. And even if they don't go on strike or walk off their jobs, there's belief that they will purposely slow down their work to kind of slow the system down, to put a hurt on the employers so that they will meet their demands, which of course will affect the whole supply chain even further. Now, since we're overseas, let's talk about the war. And before I get started about the war in Ukraine with Russia, I have exclusive video here that I would like to show you all. This is exclusive video that you may not see anywhere else. And this is proof that Ukraine, Europe, and the United States are purposely destroying their economies so that they can try to put the hurt on Russia. And here it is. Here's that video. Check that out. You can see how they're very strategically, purposely damaging their own economies so that they can tell their people that we're doing this to hurt Russia, right? We're doing this to hurt Russia. And of course, this has been the story for the last few months, even though pretty much the only country involved in all this that's actually coming out smelling like a rose has been Russia. In case you haven't heard, there's a new and increased and escalated threat in the war. Russia is now threatening to take actions against Lithuania. Lithuania is a NATO member. There is a little corridor that connects Belarus to Kazakhstan, or Kaliningrad, sorry, wrong country, wrong K word, which Kaliningrad is a Russian, it's Russian territory. And one of the only ways to resupply that territory is a rail line through Lithuania, which Russia has a treaty to be able to use that rail line to resupply their territory. And Lithuania says, we're cutting it off. We're cutting you off, and we're not allowing it. And they said, well, we may allow some things, but certainly not everything. And this is a very important strategic place for Russia. And of course, Russia is coming out and saying, hey, you do this and we will attack you. We will attack you. And then the rebuttal of that is NATO, and including the United States, has, yelled back and said, well, if you do that, that'll be an Article 5 and you'll have the full force of the United Nations come down upon you. So is this a new escalation that's going to happen in the war? We're not sure, but I think things are building up. They have been. It's interesting. Have you stopped and wondered why the news media has pretty much stopped reporting on the war? No one's really talking about what's going on in Ukraine. Is it because, well, they're not doing as good as they thought, that all the American tens of billions of dollars that's being sent over there isn't really doing that much success? Or is it because they don't want people to know that this is becoming a much worse situation and it could last for a long time? A NATO chief is warning that this war could last years. And we've already sent, what, 60 billion or something like that over there. And if this lasts for years, how many more hundreds of billions or even trillions will we be pouring into this war? And at what point will we become more physically involved in it, which is very possible. The top general in the United Kingdom, their top army general, has been warning his troops that they need to prepare now for World War III with Russia, because it's coming. He's saying that it's coming, that there is an actual physical war coming with Russia, and that the troops over there need to start preparing. And I can guarantee you that if the United Kingdom, if British troops end up getting involved with Russia, we're going to be there too. So this is one of those things that I have been talking about for the last few days, and other people have too. It's not just me. That, to go back and say, well, the economy's not doing so bad or so good right now, but, we went through the 2008 thing and the 2001 thing and even the 1970s and 80s thing, and, it was really bad and people lost money and, blah, 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 but, hey, we still exist. We're here now. Folks, what we're going through right now is nothing like that. I mean, the stock market might show some similarities and the housing market might show some similarities. But there's way too many things going on right now. Too much happening to just push it aside and say, well, this is just another cycle in the economy. This is a cycle in the stock market. It's going to go through some correction, the housing bubble and everything, and then it'll be all right. There's more things going on than just the economy and just gas prices and just the stock market and just the housing market. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's shortages and droughts and wars and the absolute attack on the very moral foundation that this country and humanity really has believed for forever. that there's a man and a woman, and that children should be protected and not be exposed to, lascivious and grotesque, adult things, and that the parents are the ones that are actually in charge of the child's upbringing, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, we're talking some really earth-shattering things are being taught and pushed upon children and the public today, along with all this other stuff. So I don't think that I don't see how anyone could look at it all and just say, well, this is just another dip and turn in the cycle of economics and blah blah blah. It's not, folks. This is very serious. We're watching, as the former executive from BlackRock, we're watching the end of days. This is like the days of Noah. This is the birthing pangs that we're feeling right now before things get absolutely apocalyptic. And when I say that, I'm saying biblically apocalyptic bad. That's what we're living through right now, and that's why we need to get prepared. That's why we need to, prepare our homes, prepare our souls, prepare our minds, get things in order right now, because things aren't getting any better. I mean, it's a daily barrage of stuff that's happening, and that's because we're getting closer to those times, okay? And many of you know what I'm referring to. We're getting closer to those times, and so we're going to see more and more and more of this. We can't allow ourselves to be just sitting on the sidelines and saying, I'm just going to have faith that I'll be fine. Because that's not what we were told. We were told to wait and to tarry till he comes, to work till he comes. We were told to stock up, and there's to prepare ourselves. And there are plenty of references in the Bible to that. So from a biblical perspective, you need to be preparing. And from a real world reality perspective, you need to be preparing too, because this is happening. Whether you like it or not, whether you want to believe in it or not, it's happening, and it's happening all over, and it's getting worse. So get your houses in order, folks. Prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.